Welcome back. You know, I have nothing against realtors, but they are realtors, so don't expect them to bash their industry. True to form, they came out with a survey today that says things are dicey, but they won't stay dicey. In fact, by next year, they might not be dicey at all. Is it a case of wishful thinking? Well, who better to ask than a realtor? One of the best I know, in fact, because she doesn't follow the crowd. Dani Babb is her name. Danielle, first off, I don't know if you caught that prior segment, but I think when you yell fire in a crowded theater, eventually you'll have a fire.
I agree completely. You know, I think that we have too many media outlets calling for things like recessions, saying that the market is in such a downturn that, you know, we're going to hell in a handbasket. I don't think that's the case. And we have indicators that are saying otherwise. So
what can you do?
Yeah.
And by the way, a lot of people always say, you own housing stocks and you're just an apologist. Not a single housing stock, okay? So let me get that out of the way. This report comes out today, written by all you realtor schmutty pants, and you're saying, hey, we see sunlight next year. Even optimistic economists are telling me, Danielle, it's the light of an approaching train. What do you say?
I say that NAR, National Association of Realtors, is a great lobby organization and great cheerleaders. I don't think that they represent those of us who are using logic to...
Well, what are you saying?
I'm saying that next year we're going to continue to see a slight downturn in a majority of the markets.
Really?
That the Northeast and the West will see some upturn only because it's been down so long that and buyers are coming back into the market slowly. But that it's going to take a while for all of this to move out of the market and for the credit crisis to be released. After the president made his announcement last week, even though we had seen interest rates fall for about 3 straight weeks, we saw them inch up again about 1/4 point because the banks became nervous that they would need more money to protect and cover their assets.
Well, you know, now the assets have hit the fan because what's going to happen here is other lenders are going to say, gee, WAMU's out of the whole subprime thing. I'm getting out of the subprime thing. I don't need the bad PR. I don't need the exposure. I don't need the headaches. And that is what creates a crisis.
That's going to create a problem because a majority of the people who need the refinancing are people who are in the subprime category. And if banks are unwilling to lend to them, then it doesn't matter what plan we come up with to lock interest rates, which, by the way, are going to help very few people, in my opinion. It's irrelevant.
The Bush plan is going to help very few?
It's going to help very few people. When we read the details of it, these people need to have either a 228 mortgage, meaning it's fixed for 2 years and then goes to a normal mortgage after 28 years, or a 327. That's already eliminating 40% of the subprime borrowers, not to mention all of the other rules that are required.
All right, well, I don't understand a word you just said, but it sounded brilliant. Here's what I think is going on. I think all we have to fear is fear itself. I don't mean to sound, you know, Pollyannish here. But when you keep foisting the word crisis on people, eventually they believe, hey, it's a crisis. So when you stop lending to people you deem risky, even though close to 9 out of 10 of them ain't risky, you are feeding a disaster. And you will get that disaster because a large pool of applicants are then going to be out of the application phase. And that's going to dry up demand.
A lot of them aren't even trying. I wrote in my blog about 2 weeks ago that the New York Times, when they said on their front page that we are headed for a recession, it was a New York Times circulation recession and not having anything to do with reality. I think that we have a lot of people...
Well, shouldn't that have told your readers, hey, it's the New York Times that says we're going into a recession?
That's what I did tell them. And in fact, the writer who created the original piece put mine on his blog, and then we kind of had a little debate. But, you know, I think that the more we call for something that is not right now a problem, the more we're going to have a problem later on down the road.
Do you think that this will lead other lenders to effectively say, we're out too, thereby escalating this crisis?
I think it will, and I also think that banks will be less willing to loan to each other even overnight to cover their reserves. And as that happens, there's going to be even less money available. And
so lenders are going to be super cautious.
Super cautious.
Buyers are going to be super reluctant.
Yep.
And your association that says next year is the turning point is going to be super wrong.
They have been wrong 70% of all predictions in 2007. They've gotten it right 3 out of 10 times, and they have been the most...
so do they fake it when they're so upbeat?
I think I teach quantitative methods, and I tell my students that any organization, you need to look at researcher bias. I think they're some of the most biased researchers around. I think they're selectively picking and choosing the data that they want to report.
So you don't buy it?
I don't buy it. I'm a member of NAR because I have to be to get MLS access, and I know a lot of other people that are too.
All right. Well, Danielle, they just called and they've taken away your membership.
I wouldn't be
Danielle,
surprised.
very good seeing you.
You too.